more on beyond capture. The paperless office is the goal. Paperless business processing is the key.
So anyway, our client list includes many highly recognized organizations. We offer references with people in your industry to talk with you about their experiences with ImageSource. Our ImageSource teams don't come to you with a specific idea of what product you need, but instead concentrate specifically defining business challenges that you face. Because we represent a variety of software options, our consulting services provide an independent and objective approach. Many consultants use a one-size-fits-all philosophy. Our flexible and proven methodologies allow us to help you identify truly suitable solutions. We will continue to learn more about and understand your organizations as we partner together. We take ownership over what we do rather than just delivering a product and walking away. We have a broad and deep experience in working with our client and vendor partners, facilitating more efficient project delivery. We are focused on building long-term, lasting relationships with our customer partners, not a one-time sale. Because we represent a variety of software options, our consulting services provide an independent and objective approach. Our flexible and proven methodologies allow us to help you define your suitable solutions. ImageSource is most highly recommended by Oracle, Kofax, amongst other software vendors. Since we represent such a large business base of clients with our vendors, we are oftentimes more effective and efficient in working with our manufacturers in regards to things as patches and software bugs. So on to the task at hand. Our discussion today focuses upon opportunities available through strategic deployment of a comprehensive paperless enterprise information management business procedure and technology solution. Electronic documents exist in all flavors in just about every department within the enterprise. Paperless content or electronic documents can be consumed from many sources such as desktops, file systems, email, correspondence, and attachments, to input that's collected directly from a supplier or a student-facing portal, or a line of business application, or even mobile applications. Leveraging a well-thought-out electronic document information strategy can result in a significant reduction of many of the traditionally higher-cost EIM tasks while providing increased business process visibility, increasing reliability, and providing the ability to kick off exception-based processing. The paperless process can be a fully auditable and compliant process. You might not think you have requirements for a paperless strategy, but you should. Just before we jump in here, I also wanted to mention we welcome you to access the ImageSource website, and we have lots of client case studies available. One of them that would be worth reviewing would be the San Jose State University case study. The university recognized the advantages of an enterprise concept of information management, and the initial implementation of their enterprise solution was co-sponsored by finance and student services, and they were able to actually reap the benefit from not only a cost perspective, but also from a quick implementation and a paperless strategy up front. Recently completed study by AIM concerning business process monitoring and reporting and tuning. I thought this was interesting in the sense that one of their questions was who in the organization is responsible or the most responsible for managing your process and monitoring your process. 31 of the respondents were the line of business manager. 19% of them were the individual user, and equally concerning is 19% was no one. What we'd like to show you as we move through the actual product demonstration today are some of the tools that are available in a solution like this, so that you actually can manage and monitor these types of business processes as you introduce more and more electronic content. Let's review the core components of the electronic information management system data flow: onboarding, process, storage and manage, and finally integration, as they all apply to the paperless procure-to-pay process. The first component of an EIM data flow is onboarding, or traditionally, I think some folks see this as capture, but capture kind of implies paper or scanning, and this process involves much more than that. Business process and complementary technologies must include provisions for all forms of content onboarding. Again, desktop capture, integration with email, mobile capture, portals, electronic forms, and fax. Our paperless process demonstration, which we'll see later today, focuses on a procure-to-pay process where we'll be dealing with requisitions, purchase orders, invoices, and finally payment to suppliers. During that time, we'll show content, storing content directly from an external source such as PeopleSoft and bringing purchase orders and requisitions into the system. We'll show some integration with email for invoices that are received from suppliers directly from an email perspective, and show content capture from an end-user perspective at the desktop. The second component of an EIM data flow is processing. Processing includes the business process and requisite technologies required for automated classification. Are we interested in extracting information off of the content that's been captured? Compliance, enforcing compliance. Automated rules-based business process workflow, and error handling. In our demonstration today, we'll provide examples of the core principles by reviewing an exception-based AP invoice process where we'll trap duplicate invoices showing integration to PeopleSoft and an invalid PO. We'll also demonstrate a rules-based intelligent routing and integration to PeopleSoft vendor maintenance screen. As part of that process demonstration as well, this kind of dovetails in, again, the same AIM report that was done earlier this year, looking at, in relation to the operational processes, what business process we're actually trying to resolve. Remember, this is the process where the line of business managers are typically the ones monitoring that process. Number one on the list, with over just about 60%, was packages or items that were stuck in the process or delayed in the process. Secondly, were compliance errors. And third, were optimum routing and process failure rates. Again, as part of that process demonstration later in our presentation today, we want to show you some tools that provide you the ability to actually manage and maintain these queues. The third component of an EIM data flow is store and manage content. Controls must be in place to effectively manage across the content to promote collaboration and transparency. Equally important are controls designed to monitor and manage the content lifecycle. In our presentation today, we're going to demonstrate for you a link server capability that allows you to view the entire procure-to-pay process from the requisition to the invoice, whether the content is stored in one or multiple content repositories. We'll also show you some audit capabilities and some notebook capabilities that provide the ability to view content offline, if you will, and show a side-by-side display of documents and search results, again, enhancing the user experience here. And finally, we'll end that part of our demonstration by walking through retention and the legal hold process, which is, again, a process that is often overlooked, but as we're increasing our throughput here, something that becomes more and more important. The fourth and final component of the EIM data flow is integrate. Extending the effectiveness of the core line of business applications by leveraging an EIM maximizes the content value, increases compliance, and results in overall operational cost savings. Delivering information to a line of business application as well as image enabling your line of business applications to view content directly from your line of business application is extremely important. In our P2P demonstration later today, we're going to be showing you the extending the benefit of your student information system or your ERP application through collaboration and repurposing business content and data. We'll also, again, show link servers and search and report capabilities utilizing content and metadata that is not stored in the content repository, but leveraging information that's stored in, let's say, PeopleSoft, to actually find and search upon content. So recapping, we've gone through the enterprise information management data model and broken down the typical processes as they relate to onboarding, to process, storage and manage, and integration. Now let's build upon the EIM data flow that we just reviewed. This time, let's see it in action, focusing upon the key technologies available from ImageSource. We'll be using the iLinks technology solution during our presentation today. As you are about to witness, iLinks has powerful functionality. At the same time, it was designed to bring value in ways that are unique in the world of content management software. Some things you know about iLinks, but won't be obvious in the upcoming demo. It is a low total cost of ownership, typically implementing an average of 50% less time than an ECM application. You'll see that it's easy to use, but it's also easy to deploy and manage. This is in part due to the fact that it is a browser-based application, which supports both centralized and decentralized administration. It has flexible deployment options, cloud, on-premises, or hybrid. And it's agile and extensible. With that, may I introduce Randy Weekly, ImageSource VP of Product Development, to take you through our demonstration.
Much to see, but we're going to show you some very user-facing examples of bringing content into your organization. So the first thing I'm going to show you is just a sample website, and so here we have just a very, very simple sample higher ed website. But one of the opportunities that we see customers leveraging is the ability to defray some of the costs of bringing this content into their organization by pushing out tools to their students or to their suppliers that allow them to contribute the content directly in an electronic format, and not only the content, but providing metadata that's associated with that content as well. So that relieves internal resources from the burden of scanning a piece of paper, providing metadata, and pushes that out to your students or your suppliers. So in this example, we're showing an iLinks capability. It is a secure upload tool that you can run as a standalone web application, or you can embed it as we've done here in this sample website. So we have a student portal. They're coming in. They select what type of document that they'd like to upload. So maybe they've downloaded a PDF file, filled that out, and now we need to get that into the workflow inside the organization. So they can interact with the system here, and all of this information they're collecting is defined by your administrator in the capture system, and so there's no custom form building going on here. You can use date fields, drop downs, pick lists, data that comes from other sources like your PeopleSoft system or financial system. And then this information is presented to the student. We also have an example here of a supplier where maybe there's a self-service portal where they're coming in and uploading invoices, and they're providing information to you. And so they can select documents. You can restrict what types of and size of documents get uploaded, check for password-protected PDFs. And this information then, once they fill it out and hit the submit button, is delivered directly into the associated workflow for downstream processing. So the next thing I want to show you, I'm going to switch over here to a different machine. If you're using Microsoft Outlook, this is a really nice tool that allows you to integrate capture capabilities into that desktop client. So it's likely you're getting emails from students, from suppliers, from other vendors, other campuses that you need to take and put into a workflow. So with the iLinks Capture email import, I've got an example here. I've gone on a business trip. I've scanned my receipts for an expense report that I'm submitting. I just right-click on this email that came from my multifunction device. I'm going to log in here. And then it's prompting me to select, where am I going to put this email? So I'm going to say this is an expense report. In fact, the document type is a set of receipts, in support of my expense report, and I hit OK. So a couple things are going to go on right now. The system's going to take that original email, it's going to convert it into a PDF, and then it also takes any attachments that I have and adds them to this package as well. So here's my receipts that came off my scanner. The other thing that you'll notice on the left-hand side, we have an area to input index information for this new workflow that we're going to kick off. And in this particular example, this is a custom panel that we've integrated into the Capture product. So iLinks Capture has the ability that allows you to create custom user interfaces. And these are things that go beyond the out-of-the-box Capture product to maybe do some specialized validation, collect some information, and do some maybe specialized processing here. I'm going to grab an electronic signature. And all of this is delivered by the Capture system and updated by the Capture system, and becomes a very natural part of that user experience, streamlining the ability to get content, in this case from email, directly into your workflow. So I can hit go, and that's going to go right into my Capture workflow. So the next pillar we'd like to talk about is processing. So we just touched on a few onboarding options there. Now we're talking about once that information has hit your processing workflow. And I'm going to switch over here to a, let's do this. And this is our workflow building environment. It's very graphical. As you can see on the left-hand side is my palette of workflow activities. I can drag those out onto my workflow canvas, link them up, and in fact, this workflow is made up of subflows. I can double-click and drill down into the next layer of business logic here. We have some human activities where we're going to route things for human processing. Now, ideally, what we'd like to see is straight-through processing, and really this becomes an exception-based workflow. But in reality, we're going to want some humans to look at things. If I get a particularly big invoice, it's $50,000. I probably don't want to pay that automatically. I want to route that. Even if everything's okay, I want a human to look at that and just say, yeah, we're good to pay this. But more than likely, you're going to have 10 or so % of your invoices that need to be touched by a human. And so having a very flexible workflow that can deliver just the right content to just the right users is very important. And that workflow also needs to be agile to change with your business processes and requirements. So in iLinks workflow, it's very easy. I can, if I'm going to switch to just a solely PO-based invoice process, I can take out the approvals because these are pre-approved POs. And so I can make that change, hit save and publish, and those changes are made live right at that point. Now, I do have the choice when I'm making workflow modifications. I can choose to apply changes that will affect only new workflow items, or I can choose to apply workflow changes that will affect new items and everything that exists in my system. Now, we can't roll back time, but anything that has not hit this particular point in the workflow will now take advantage of the change that I just made. So in this example, I won't run through the dummying up the data and running it through here, but this workflow is set up to send exception emails when something is not right. So we're doing some automated validation here. We're checking for duplicate invoice numbers. We can validate the vendor. And these types of validations can be done by leveraging your financial system. And this is done without coding. So I can drop in a validation step in my workflow. I can point it at the right information in my PeopleSoft system. And if I don't get the results I expect back from that, then I can automatically flag that as an error, and the system can send me an email. So if I go over here, I've got an email that was sent by the system. It says, hey, there's an invoice processing exception here, and there's a link to the exact piece of workflow that's having the problem. And so this allows me to not have to be in the software necessarily, and we can really implement an exception-based workflow. And I'm alerted when there's something that I need to do, and I'm directed right into the product, right to the piece of information that I need to process. Now, if I do spend a lot of time doing some heads-down work, maybe I'm doing coding from an invoice, maybe I'm processing some inbound transcripts or transcript requests, I can drop right into the workflow assigned work tab here. And this allows me to monitor what's going on in my workflow. Now, I may not have access to my entire workflow system. I may have access to only a few human activities where I'm supposed to be doing my work. And so I can loop through here and very quickly click on these items and be delivered right into the workflow batch that I need to operate on. So here I've clicked on an invoice that has an exception, an AP exception. I can see some content here. Now, I'm logged in as an administrator, so the software by default doesn't download the documents. We don't really expect an admin to be processing heads down, but you can tune that so that groups of users receive certain number of pages automatically, or they can have the choice to download them on demand. So I'm going to switch over here. This is the indexing panel. Now, we're seeing another example of a custom indexing panel. And the reason we're showing this is to show you that you can create any type of user interface really that you want to facilitate some very specific processing that you're not going to find in any out-of-the-box product. And as Dave mentioned earlier, I can tie this information directly into my financial system or system of record. And in this case, we're seeing some information that is part of the workflow, but we're also seeing information that has been pulled in real time for my financial system. So maybe I'm looking at a PO status. I'm looking at, how much is left on that PO. I'm pulling some, the latest buyer information, so I have the correct contact information. I can click buttons and be driven right over to my PeopleSoft system. I'm going to have to log in here, but it can take me directly to that vendor. I can check and make sure that site is okay and maybe update some of the information in my workflow and say, yes, in fact, this is good to go. Let's go ahead and approve this particular workflow. I can click on artifacts in the user interface that allow me to interact with desktop applications like Microsoft Outlook. So it's a very flexible environment to create very streamlined heads-down processing type of capabilities. Now, Dave brought us some somewhat startling statistics that AIM has released recently about how much visibility a lot of companies have into their workflows and their processes. And we see that as well. And so we've created some out-of-the-box reports that are very operational type reports, but they can give you some very quick insight into what's going on into your business process. I have some date filtering capabilities that I can take a look at specific periods in time. What's going on? How many workflows have been created? Are they still in workflow, or have they been released? How many of them are sitting in an error queue? That's going to be very important for me to keep an eye on. And on the right-hand side, you see some more detailed specifics about where each of the workflow items are in the workflow. And I've set this up so that I want to be notified if there's something that's sitting in a queue longer than an hour. So you see some red there on the chart. And that's going to be an indicator to me that I need to look into that and find out why those processes have been sitting there so long. And this is very configurable. I can email this report, download it, or print it, for any of the workflows that I have access to. All right, so that we've covered onboarding, some examples of processing. So now let's go to the next pillar, which is store and manage. So I'm going to switch over to our content management system. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, all of this is actually running in the Microsoft Azure cloud, which is one of the benefits of iLinks. It gives you some flexibility on deployment. So you can choose to run this in your data center. You can host this on Azure. We have a number of customers that are actually doing a hybrid approach, so they're hosting their application servers in their data center, but they're using Microsoft Azure to provide them with geographic redundant copies of their data. And so they have a complete disaster recovery system that basically they don't maintain. They just pay Microsoft and they take care of the 5.9 availability for that system. So it's just great to have those kind of flexibilities, and I'd encourage you to look for that type of capability when you're searching for a solution. So one of the key elements of repository is the ability to find information quickly and not have to wade through a bunch of stuff that's irrelevant. So we have a number of ways that you can search and find information within iLink's content store. The first I'll show you, I already typed this in earlier this morning, is what we call a global search. And think of this as a Google search, essentially. So I can type in a keyword like New York, and it's going to go across the entire iLinks Content Store system that I have access to and pull back content from, you can see here, 4 different applications or document libraries, document types, and present those to me along with their unique metadata sets. Now, when I search that search capability like that, I'm doing a couple of different types of searches. I'm looking for any document where the metadata contains New York or NY. I'm also looking for documents that have within their content NY, and that could include Microsoft Word documents, PDF documents, as well as TIFF documents. So we can OCR TIFFs as they come in and make that content full text searchable as well. Now, so that's global searching. Now, the other way I can find information is by browsing, and you'll see, excuse me, on the left-hand side I have a navigational area, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I have a number of different document folders. Actually, you can call this anything you want. It's an administrative setting. If you're more comfortable with application, library, doc type, you can just change that. We often refer to them as applications. But it is a bucket of information that has similar metadata index values and security values applied to it. So I can simply browse these applications by double-clicking and opening those folders. Now, we have limits that the administrator sets to make sure that your performance isn't impacted here. And I can see maybe 30 rows, and then I give them an option to see additional rows if necessary. But like Google searching, we find that most of our customers will establish their criteria so that you find what you're looking for on the first page. But if you need to go down and do some more sophisticated searching, we have the ability to, let me select contracts, and select the advanced search. And this is going to open a panel that allows me to specify criteria for any of the metadata values that I've defined in the system. I can also add additional criteria for system values. When did this document arrive? When was the last time it was modified? Or who has this document checked out in the system? And so this allows me to really fine-tune what I'm looking for. Additionally, I can use not only the structured searching that I just mentioned, but I can do full-text searching as well. So I can say, show me everything where my vendor is, let's say, Home Depot, and the content of the document contains legal or lawsuit. And that's going to run a search using a combination of the structured data, which is Home Depot, and then the unstructured search, which is lawsuit or legal. And this is really going to help me to find information very quickly within my system. Now, once let's say I do a lot of searching for a particular vendor or a particular status of a document. I can establish that advanced search, but I don't want to do that every time I come in. So I can provide information into this advanced search panel, get it tweaked to the way I want it, and then I can save it as a favorite search. So you see I have some favorites here. I've got one I can double-click, and it's going to show me everything in my system that has a legal hold. I can double-click on pending retention management dispositions, and it's going to show me everything that's waiting for approval in my system for further retention management processing. And these are just 2 examples. You can create any of them, any types of favorite searches that you want. But these are the types of things that we see customers interested in creating to help them quickly find information in their system. I want to show you another example of a really nice piece of functionality within iLinks Content Store. So let's say I'm doing some research. Maybe I've got a customer that's called in. They're interested in where their invoice is in my process, and I can do a search, either advanced search, or I can just browse and find their information. I find the invoice. I can right-click on it. There's an option to search associated applications, and these associations are defined by my administrator, and they link applications together or document folders together based on any of the metadata that's stored in the system. And so here with one click, I see that there's a requisition for this that kicked off this whole process. I also see a purchase order that was probably sent to my supplier. And just to check, I can click on these, and I have an option to open side by side. So I can do some research here to find out why this supplier is calling me. Maybe there's a short shipment. Maybe something's held up in my accounting department. or maybe there was a problem with the invoice or the PO itself. And so this gives me a very quick way to do some research into this process that Dave mentioned. The other thing I can do is if I open this invoice, if I'm using iLink's Capture and I process this invoice through maybe that invoice processing workflow that we saw earlier, and it's arrived here in my content store system, one of the other things that you can choose to do, and I'll expand this panel, is to push all of the auditing information from the workflow process to the final document. So that workflow is gone. It may even be purged out of my workflow system. But as long as I have this invoice document in my system, I have a full audit history of what happened and when and who approved what, or maybe why this was rejected in the first place. So my vendor that I have on the phone is kind of curious about why there's a discrepancy. They've called in, right? So I can they're outside of my organization, obviously, so I can right-click on any number of documents. If those were TIFFs, maybe I want to send those out as PDFs, so I have the option to convert those automatically. These actually were PDF natively. And so the system delivers these to me in whatever format I want, pops open my email so I have access to my full contacts list, and boom, I can send that information off to my supplier so they can maybe work out an issue on their side. Now, Dave mentioned some retention management, and a lot of times, retention management is like getting the oil changed in your car. You go in, you pay, what you think is probably more money than you should, and you drive out, and nothing has really changed. The only reason you do it is because you're scared of what might happen if you don't. And so what we have tried to create is something that is very simple to use. It's very integrated with iLink's Content Store and allows you to set up these retention management processing jobs, these file plans, with very little effort, and it's very flexible. So you don't have to just delete things. So you can choose to run them through an approval process where you've got multi-level approvals. And I've got some artifacts here. I won't go through that whole process with you, but I'll just show you kind of what can happen with some of the data. So you'll see in this example here, I've got some metadata that's all been marked removed. So in this case, I've chosen to leave some fingerprints of the document, but I don't want to keep all of the metadata. So I've wiped out some of that content. Additionally, I don't actually want the original document. So what the system has done for me has replaced the original content with the file plan for this particular document type. And in this file plan, this is automatically generated by the system and automatically replaces these documents that I've chosen, and it describes exactly why, when, and where these documents were replaced by my retention management rules. Now, I've got a couple of documents up here at the top. I may just want to freeze something. So if I'm in litigation with a company or maybe a student or a constituent, I want to hold on to those documents. So I don't want them to go through the normal retention management processing until I've cleared them. And so I can set up rules to do that as well. And so just by changing metadata or flagging documents, I can make sure that those get put into some type of hold where no one in the system can modify those documents. No deleting, no changing the documents, no annotating. I can't even comment on those documents. Now, we do have a security right where you can provide your retention managers, your records managers, where they can override those holds and then release that document for normal processing. And all of these capabilities can be audited completely. So you've got destruction sheets of everything that went out of your system if you choose to. So the last pillar is allowing this information to be used across your organization, integrating it to your line of business systems and leveraging existing investments. So we've shown you some examples of how that can occur. Let me just switch back over here to show you a quick example. In this case, I'm onboarding an invoice, and I've set up a database lookup with my financial system, my master vendor list, and I have some number of keys I've specified to type ahead, and as I type ahead, I get results back from my financial system. I select the correct vendor, and I populate a bunch of information in my indexing panel. So this is doing a couple of things. One, it's making this process of onboarding content with information very quick because I don't have to retype all this. And it's also ensuring accuracy because I'm not entering this information. It's coming directly from my line of business system. And let me switch back again to our content system. And when I was poking around with the invoices, there's a field there. Poking around with the invoices, there's a field there on the far left, and actually I could change these. Drag and drop. I can reorder if I'd like, and resort these. But this field called paste date, it looks very natural here with the rest of these index values that are coming back from the invoice repository. But in actuality, that value is coming from a PeopleSoft financial system, and it's a status on each one of these invoices. So every time I run a search, I look at a document, that invoice information, that status, is coming back in real time and is being displayed in this environment. So I don't have synchronization issues if there's information that I'd like to show to my knowledge workers, but I don't want to take a risk on synchronization issues. This is a great way to deliver that information directly into their hands. So that's going to wrap up our demo. So just to recap quickly, we've seen some onboarding capabilities with iLinks Capture. We've brought them into the iLinks workflow. We've processed those through both heads down and exception-based workflow. We talked about store and manage with some great findability features, and easy retention management that's very flexible. And lastly, we finished up with leveraging this very valuable enterprise information by reaching out to other systems, augmenting and enriching that information.